Well, good morning and welcome to the Morning Burrito. I am Michael, and my co-host Eric is on vacation, so we are going to be without his services as we were last week, but that's okay. He will be back, and we have our co-host again. I don't know if this is going to be Mr. Cactus or Mr. Cacti. I mean, cacti is plural, but if you have a suggestion for our little Christmas cactus here, a new name for him, or I guess a first name for him, that would be great. Go ahead and send them in the comments. I just want to say thank you again for tuning in and being a part of this journey that we're on in our podcasting life here at the Morning Burrito. There are lots of ways to listen or to watch this show. Of course, if you're watching on iTunes or on Facebook or YouTube, we're available there every Tuesday morning at 10 o'clock. You'll have a premiere video of our new episode. And then also you can go to Spotify, iTunes, or Google Play, Anchor.fm. Lots of different ways to listen to us as well. Obviously, if you are not listening, you don't get to see my beautiful face or Eric's beautiful face when he's here, or the awesome cacti, but you do get to listen to the show and to be a part. There's lots of ways to get in contact with us. Of course, if you are in the Eastern Oregon, Hermiston, particularly Umatilla County area, we always invite you to come to our church. Our church, Hermiston Nazarene Church, actually sponsors our show, and they have been so kind to give us the time to do this every week. And so thank you to Hermiston Nazarene Church for that. So if you're looking for a church, go ahead and plug in. You can meet us and be a part of the show that way. Also, again, Facebook or YouTube, you can go in the comments section of our videos, and we'll respond to those comments as we see them pop in. And you can also send a message to our Facebook page, and we'll respond to those messages as quickly as we can. I know a lot of you have reached out to Eric or myself regarding questions about the show, and we talked a little bit about that a couple of weeks ago. When we share scripture verses or any sorts of articles that we're referencing, as I did last week, we'll try and make sure to quote those for you so that you can have them. And eventually we'd love to have them up on the screen so that you can see them. We're working on it. Give us some time. We're working. But again, thanks for interacting with our show. Again, we would love for you to interact with our awesome co-host here this week. And let's name this guy so that we have a name for our Christmas cactus here. So a few weeks ago, we had this conversation leading into Thanksgiving about Thanksgiving traditions in both Eric's family and my family, and just in general, things that we knew that people did to celebrate Thanksgiving. Talked about faith, family, and football. That was kind of my three F's for Thanksgiving. But I want to spend some time just talking about Christmas traditions. There are so many Christmas traditions out there. My family has had many over the course of my lifetime, and I'd love to just share some of those with you. If you have some cool traditions that you do for Christmas, I would love to read them. Eric would love to read them. So again, put them in the comments. And again, if you're listening, you can just go back after the fact, go to our Facebook page, go to our YouTube page, and you can YouTube channel, and you can go ahead and put the comments in on those videos at that time as well. But I'm going to start with music. So there is a massive debate amongst people about when is the appropriate time to start listening to Christmas music. Now, when I was a kid, you didn't see Christmas stuff go up into the stores until after Halloween, right? You'd get through your Halloween seasonal section, and then as they transitioned that Halloween section, it would become the Christmas section in most department stores, Walmart, Target, whatever. But over the last, I would say 10 or 15 years, give or take, maybe a little longer than that, we've seen that the department stores and the grocery stores and whatever, they have begun to start that Christmas season earlier, which has been kind of odd. Excuse me. And the same is true with Christmas music. It used to be that Christmas music would not be played until after Halloween. You wouldn't hear of people listening to Christmas music any earlier than that. And so I wanted to settle this debate from my opinion and talk about when is the appropriate time to listen to Christmas music. Now, I put Christmas music in two separate categories. So I think from a rational, reasonable human being's perspective, sorry, I had a frog in my throat. There are the category of Christmas songs that are the fun, non-church related, non-Jesus related, have a holly jolly Christmas, Jingle Bell Rock, Jingle Bells even. They're not really Christian songs, Christian Christmas songs. They are just seasonal songs, right? Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, obviously not about Jesus. Santa Claus is coming to town, not about Jesus. But then there's the second, and typically these are called Christmas carols. And Christmas carols are hymns, for lack of a better way of describing them, that were written for the church about Advent and the Christmas season, and Jesus specifically, and his birth. And so, what child is this? O come all ye faithful. O come, Emmanuel. I mean, those are the kinds of examples of songs I would be talking about. Now, as a guy who is employed at a church as a pastor, and particularly a pastor who is overseeing music within our church, I would argue that Christmas carols are actually their worship songs, so they can be sung any time of the year. I don't really necessarily believe that "Hark the Herald Angels Sing" is it would be improper to sing that in September or sing that in March. It is a song that talks about Jesus, and therefore it is worthy of being sung at any time. However, I would also say in the same breath that it would be weird to sing Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer at Halloween. It would be weird to sing Santa Claus is Coming to Town on July 4th. Although we do have Christmas in July, which I still have never quite understood, but I guess it's a thing. So wherever you come down on that, I think is okay. Maybe I'm not going to settle the debate today, but I would say that Christmas carols are good to be sung anytime. I really have no issue with that. My family, we do get an early start. We generally do start singing Christmas carols or listening to Christmas music sometime in October. That's pretty typical of our home. But we understand that, people may think we're weird for that. That's okay. I accept that. I may be a little weird. But waiting till after Halloween is over, I can understand that. And then, some people wait till after Thanksgiving. There aren't really Thanksgiving songs, so I'm not really of the opinion that you have to wait all the way to Thanksgiving to begin to celebrate Christmas and listen to Christmas music. But totally get that too. If you want to wait till after Thanksgiving before listening to the Christmas stuff, totally get it. Which easily transitions us into, when is it right to decorate for Christmas? Now, I think this one's a more nuanced conversation because it depends on if you really celebrate fall and particularly Thanksgiving. I know people in my circle who are not big Thanksgiving people. Like, they enjoy having Thanksgiving dinner. They watch football. They, spend time with family, all of that. But Thanksgiving's not really that big of a deal to them. And so once they get past Halloween, they start setting up for Christmas. Or at least they start putting their plan together for how they're going to decorate for Christmas. My wife is kind of the piece by piece person when it comes to decorating. So we will decorate our house in like stages. Whereas you'll see, maybe some little things start to go up sometime in mid-November. And then by the time we get to Thanksgiving, and usually on Thanksgiving weekend, our family's tradition is that we get the tree up, that we get the lights on the house outside. And again, by the end of that Thanksgiving weekend, we are in full Christmas mode. We do not go into December without being Christmas mode in our house. And at that point, Christmas music is blaring in our home. We are fully on for Christmas. So when it comes to decorating, I would say, again, to each their own. I don't think there's a right or wrong answer to this, but I do think that it is more than appropriate to say, I'm not really going to decorate for Thanksgiving. So as soon as Halloween's over, I'm going to start getting my stuff together and getting ready. Even if it's just on the interior of your house, get it set up and ready for Christmas. Totally cool with that. Get it. A lot of our traditions with Christmas, at least from what my experience has been, center around food. So my family has had an interesting, my family likes to eat. I'm a big guy. I love food. And so we have had several different traditions over the course of my life when it comes to food at Christmas time. Now, the first one that pops in my head immediately is how we celebrated Christmas Eve for a lot of my years. My mom, she and my dad love to eat lasagna. Lasagna is like one of their favorite Italian dishes. And so for a long time, my mom's tradition was on Christmas Eve, she would make lasagna from scratch. And, she'd get the big noodles and, soften them up and, make the lasagna from scratch. And it was always so good with the ricotta cheese and the tomato sauce, the diced tomatoes inside, and then, the spinach and we had meat. So usually it was beef, ground beef in there, and then mozzarella cheese on the top. It was so good. So good. Garlic bread. Some people might find that weird for Christmas Eve, but that was our tradition. That's what we did. Another tradition, my mom was big into cookies. My mom, for a lot of years, and even to this day, I mean, she makes tons of cookies now that she's retired, but she would make Christmas cookies, and she would make the icing from scratch. And so we would ice our cookies, and they were in different colors. She'd use the food dye or whatever, and we would ice our cookies, and we'd have the different types of sprinkles that we put on it. And of course, she had the cookie cutters. So there's an angel, and then a star, and a Christmas tree, candy cane, so on and so forth. And so we would have fun just decorating cookies every Christmas. She always made the wedding bell cookies. I've never understood the wedding bell cookie. I think I'm not a big fan of nuts, so I've never understood the wedding bell cookie. Maybe some of you out there are a really big fan of wedding bell cookies, but that was not my thing. My dad's thing, though, I don't think this is a thing out in Oregon where we live now. In fact, when we lived in Oklahoma, I don't think this was a thing there either. I don't even remember ever seeing them. Maybe we were able to acquire them. I'm not sure. But I haven't even seen them in our Walmart. But there was a cookie that my dad and my sister particularly always bought at Christmas time for many of my years growing up. And they're made by a company called Archway, and they were the Bells and Stars. And so they were sugar cookies, but they were thick, about yay thick or so, and they were shaped like bells and stars. Bless me. Whew. And so we would eat these cookies. They would come in, packaged yay big or so, and they wouldn't last long in our house. You get some milk and you eat the bells and stars, they would go quick. My mom and dad usually would buy multiple packages of these because they would go so fast in our home. They were so tasty. More recently, up until the time when my parents moved away from Chicago, where I'm from, when we would go home for Christmas, it became a tradition that my parents would take us to this Japanese hibachi restaurant called Benihana. And it was an interesting tradition that my parents came up with in our adult years as kids. And but I'll never forget my daughter's my oldest daughter's either first or second Christmas. I think it was her second Christmas, so she would have been 1 at the time. We went to Benihana for Christmas Eve, and my daughter got this incredibly awful rash. We had gotten her this Christmas dress that was kind of like a velour, velvety material of some sort. And she just broke out in absolute hives. She was itchy and, she couldn't talk. So at the time she was just crying and miserable. It was awful. My sister and her husband were there, my brother. It was just awful. And so my sister and I, on Christmas Eve in the evening, it's dark outside, it's Chicago suburbs, and we're trying to find like a Walgreens or a CVS or something like that that's open, so that we can get my poor kid some Benadryl to get her to calm down so that we can have dinner. And we ended up stopping at a gas station and finding this like absolutely tiny bottle of Benadryl, which was just hilarious. But again, not hilarious for my daughter at the time, but I mean, it's hilarious thinking about it now. But yeah, one of our traditions was going to Benihana, to this Japanese hibachi place, to have steak and or chicken or whatever, and watch the guy with the knives throwing the knives and things. So that was a pretty cool tradition. So those are most of my food traditions in my family. I don't think I'm missing anything. We always had either turkey or ham on Christmas Day. Usually a ham for Christmas Day, and all the fixins, kind of like we do for Thanksgiving. Many of you probably have a tradition with movies. So a friend of mine, he is a big time denier of what I consider truth, and that is the movie A Christmas Story is in the top 5 best Christmas films ever made. It's up there with A Wonderful Life and Christmas Vacation, Elf. I mean, they're all in that top 5, top 10 of best Christmas movies. Holiday Inn, although that's not technically a Christmas film. White Christmas, another top Christmas film, of course. But for me, the big tradition in our family was we would basically, from Thanksgiving on to Christmas, as a family, we would not sit and watch movies together unless they were Christmas films. So you would see A Christmas Story played in our house a ton. We would watch Home Alone a lot. Christmas Vacation is probably my dad's favorite Christmas movie. Well, maybe Elf now, but it's a toss-up probably between those two for Christmas. My dad's a big Elf fan, but we would watch those movies just constantly throughout Christmas, so that by the time it got to Christmas Eve, for those of you who are aware, usually TBS or TNT have that like 24 hours of A Christmas Story, that by the time we would get to that 24 hours of A Christmas Story, nobody wanted to watch it because we've seen it so many times in the Christmas season already. But one of the things that I love is now with my own kids, when the family in A Christmas Story goes to the Chinese restaurant on Christmas Eve or Christmas Day. I guess it's Christmas Day. The Deck the Halls song by the Chinese guys, that it's just really quite funny. I don't know if you can make that movie anymore, or at least not that part. But it was always funny, and my kids get such a kick out of it. It's just such a cool film, and it stood the test of time. The kid sticks his tongue to the flagpole, and it's a great film. So our tradition was watching lots and lots of Christmas movies. We watched The Grinch, of course, the original Grinch, every year. Charlie Brown Christmas was something we watched every Christmas Eve. Usually when we get home from church, after dinner, we'd watch Charlie Brown Christmas, which, again, many families have a similar tradition to that. One of the other traditions that we have in my family, my new family, my own family, I guess you would say, my wife and I, after we had our first child, we spent several years kind of not knowing what to do at Christmas other than just buy our kid gifts, Santa brings gifts, do that sort of thing, right? But in the last few years, we've, especially as once we got pregnant with our second child, like, we got to take this a little more serious. We want to have some traditions that last, that are just our family's traditions. And a friend of ours suggested something that they did, and we just loved the idea. And it was, every single year you go and you buy ornaments for your tree, so that every year you can say, that was 2019's Christmas ornament, or that was 2015's Christmas ornament. And you remember that year, and it can bring up memories of that year. Now, 2020, I don't know that we really want to have a 2020 ornament just because it's 2020. In fact, on our tree, we have an ornament of a dumpster that's on fire, and on the dumpster, it has 2020. So, that's one of the ornaments on our tree this year. But the reality is, it's been really cool to watch that my daughter, my older daughter, it's like an appointment for her every year now. She can't wait to go to the store and to buy those new ornaments, to celebrate that Christmas season and to remember that year. So that's a new tradition that our family has, and it's a pretty powerful tradition, because it's really a family unity thing, and it's a memory thing, if nothing else. Now, the last part I want to share with you, as far as traditions for Christmas, everybody has this like debate, or they take a side on, when is the right time to open gifts? Can you open gifts on Christmas Eve? Should you not open gifts on Christmas Eve? Everything on Christmas Day, that sort of thing. Do you open them all on Christmas Eve, and then Christmas morning you sleep in and you get up, you make your Christmas dinner, you have Christmas dinner? Now, again, kind of like before, I can't tell you what the right answer is here. I don't know that there is a right answer. Some people might disagree with that statement, but I don't think that there's a right answer to this. But I'll say this. In our family, when I was growing up, as a kid, we would open our grandparents' gifts on Christmas Eve. So my grandma and grandpa on both sides, we would open their gifts first on Christmas Eve to give us something to do on Christmas Eve night. Before we went to bed, we get to open up some gifts. And generally, we would call the grandparents on the phone and talk to them while we're opening the gifts, so they can hear us say thank you and be excited. I'll never forget one year I got knives from my grandmother on my dad's side. Parents didn't quite understand that one, but knives to a young kid, a young boy, probably not the wisest gift to give me. Didn't quite understand it myself. Needless to say, I didn't possess those as a kid. But as I've become a dad, and as time has gone on, and we tend to buy more expensive gifts these days, and so there's like a less is more type of principle, I think, with a lot of kids these days. And my daughters are certainly not an exception to that. So we try to save all the gifts for Christmas Sunday, or Christmas Day rather, because we just simply want to focus Christmas Eve on God and really spend the time on Christmas Eve focusing on God, because that's when we go to our Christmas Eve service, which is, again, a tradition in our family, being a part of Christmas Eve. Now, granted, I'm a pastor, and this is kind of what I do as a job, so I have to go to Christmas Eve service, but Christmas Eve is our time to really focus on God and what Jesus has done. We read the Christmas story as a family each Christmas Eve night before the girls go to bed, and we read "'Twas the Night Before Christmas" because, of course, why not do that? But Christmas Day, we open all the gifts, and whether they're from Santa Claus or grandparents or mom and dad, our kids get to open their gifts. And again, there's not a ton of gifts. It's just kind of the way things are these days. But it is awesome to see our kids open gifts. And I know for all of you who are parents out there, or grandparents at this point, you understand what I mean when I say there's a joy that every parent gets when we get to watch our kids open gifts. And to be serious for just a moment, to close out our show for this week, I can only imagine the joy that it brings to God when his creation accepts the gift of salvation. When we open and unpack the gift of salvation, I think our God must be even that much more joyful than we are when we see our kids open gifts that we've bought them. Because it truly is the greatest gift. It is what Christmas is all about. And so next week, again, we're gonna talk about this. We're gonna unpack this a bit and just talk through the story in a brief, short way, through the Christmas story, and unpack the pieces of the story that are just not just miraculous, although there's lots of miraculous parts about the Christmas story, but just unpack the meaning of it. What was God trying to accomplish through the Christmas story, through Jesus's life, and what is the true meaning of Christmas? And so we're going to talk about that. It's not consumerism. It's not Santa Claus. It is Jesus. Jesus is the reason for the season. And so, pardon the cliche, it is true. So we're going to talk through that next week. Thank you so much for being a part of the Morning Burrito. It is such an honor to be able to spend time with you each week. And, 2020 is almost over. And a vaccine has come. It's being dosed as we speak. And, our healthcare workers who are on the front lines, who are heroes, are getting those first doses of the vaccine. And what an amazing journey this year has been. In so many ways terrible, but also in so many ways wonderful, because God has really shown up in different ways, at least in my life and in our church's life here in Hermiston. So I'm looking forward to 2021. I'm looking forward to what God has for us in this new year. So let's get through the end of this year. We'll see you guys next week, Tuesday, right here on Facebook, YouTube, Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, and everywhere else you can find us. Thank you for spending time with us, and we will see you on the flip side.